So there is an update on former WWE Women's and Divas Champion Melina's return to the WWE. Now, yesterday it was reported that Melina would be returning to the WWE by Mike Johnson over at PW Insider after a absence of 9 years after leaving the promotion in 2011. However, Melina herself, the former WWE Women's and Divas Champion, has shot down reports that she has signed a new contract to imminently return to the WWE. Now, last night, Melina posted a lengthy Facebook post. She noted that the reports had made, quote, her heart ache because she loves her fans and does not want to raise their hopes only to be disappointed. However, Melina did not rule out the possibility of returning to WWE at some stage. Now, it's a very, very long piece, so I'll link it in the video description if you want to read the whole statement that she made. But there's a couple of big points to point out here that she mentioned in her statement. So she said, quote, I am not signed with the WWE, but that doesn't mean it's not a possibility. If I potentially get signed, don't forgive them for lying to you. I know there are those that aren't a fan of mine, but I still will care about them as I do my own fans. Now, Melina, she also mentioned that she lost her father to COVID-19 earlier this year, and she said that even if she did get a contract offer, she might not be in the right emotional state right now to return to WWE inside a WWE ring. She said, quote, there's so much more than just give someone a contract. I lost my father last month. Am I emotionally ready? I'm 41. Am I physically able? Is there a story available? Simply talking to the WWE makes my heart happy. I am grateful for my time with them. One day I'll come home, but when the time is right. So if it doesn't happen now, I'm sorry you thought I was returning, end quote. Now, Melina was last seen frequently on NWA television. She was a regular wrestler for NWA on the NWA Power Series on YouTube before that got shut down due to the current pandemic. Her last match was actually at NWA's Into the Fire pay-per-view event earlier this year. I believe that was in February. And as I mentioned, she was regularly appearing on episodes of NWA Power on YouTube. She served as an ally, a mentor to current NWA World Women's Champion Thunder Rosa and had a bit of a stable on NWA Power. But it was reported yesterday by Mike Johnson that her contract had expired with the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I think it's important to consider all of the factors here. I think it is important to look at the quote that she says that, quote, simply talking to the WWE makes my heart happy. So by that, she's not denying that she has had talks with the WWE. And I think that's where, in these kind of stories, things can kind of get lost in translation. Because for me, Mike Johnson, a PW insider, he reported this yesterday, and I'm not going to criticize his work. I'm not going to criticize his legitimacy as a journalist because he has broken thousands and thousands of stories over the years. He really has. He's a very reputable journalist, and he doesn't get a lot wrong usually. And usually, from my experiences with these journalists and these big websites, they check with multiple people and multiple sources before they break a story this big. So I don't criticize him with that. I think potentially what we could have seen here is that one of his sources has heard that Melina is talking to WWE, or dialogue has been opened about a contract with WWE, and they've told Mike Johnson, yeah, Melina's returning to the company, when, as Melina says, nothing has been signed as of yet. They're just talking. So that's the problem with these kind of deals. That's the problem with any kind of journalism, is that you're only as good and only as reputable as your sources, and sometimes the sources get it wrong. Now, what I also will say is WWE superstars and WWE in general have a history of denying returns, right? Obviously, Edge at the start of this year that story began picking up steam in about October of 2019. And how many times did even Edge himself say, I'm not returning, I wish I could, but I haven't been cleared, etc., etc. And then we've seen on the WWE 24 documentary about Edge's return that he was just lying. He was just lying. He was trying to keep his return a secret. Even John Morrison, before John Morrison re-signed with WWE earlier this year or at the end of last year, there had been about 4 or 5 different reports or different occasions where it was reported John Morrison has signed with the WWE, John Morrison is going to return to the WWE, and then eventually he did sign the contract after that. So potentially we could be just looking at a similar situation here whereby, because Melina's talking to WWE, one of Mike Johnson's sources or PW Insider sources have suggested that Melina signed with the company when she hasn't. They're just talking. And I think also when it comes to Mike Johnson's reporting here, he reported it first, he broke the story, but a lot of other outlets picked up on it too. A lot of other reputable outlets picked up on it too. And a lot of the time when other major outlets, Fightful, Pro Wrestling Sheet, etc., when they pick those stories up, they don't just pick them up because Mike Johnson said it. They look at the story and then they go to their sources. And their sources were obviously saying something similar, so they decided to run with it too. So I think Mike he hasn't just picked this out of thin air. That's my point here. I don't think Mike Johnson just picked this out of thin air. He would have heard it from somewhere. So that's not to say that wasn't all BS, because there's obviously parts of this story that aren't factually accurate. Melina is categorically denying that she is not signed with the WWE. But in the same breath, she's not ruling out that it's not a possibility. So there's lots of different ways to look at this. I think the most important thing to pick out of this and this statement that Melina has made about her potential return to the WWE is that she's not signed to the WWE right now. That's the key factor here. It's not a case of, is the return going to happen or not going to happen? I'll give you my opinion on if it will or if it won't in a second. But the key thing to take away here is that Melina is not currently signed to WWE, according to Melina, of course. That doesn't mean she isn't returning. That just means as of this moment right now, according to Melina, she has not signed a WWE contract. Now, in my opinion, personally, I think she will return. I mentioned in the video yesterday when we spoke about Melina's potential return to the WWE that I think even at 41 years of age, she still has a lot to offer. I love seeing superstars of previous generations face the current generation. You look at Mickie James, she just had a big moment on Monday Night Raw that was completely ruined by the referee, but it's great to see her mix up against the likes of Asuka. MVP, one of the biggest and brightest stories of 2020 has been the return of MVP to WWE television. Who would have thought in 2019 that MVP would return and could be a valuable commodity to Monday Night Raw? He is one of the best things going, not only on Raw, but in the WWE right now. The Hurt Business is fantastic. One of the best decisions WWE made was bringing back MVP earlier this year, and I think with the success of people like MVP, WWE are now looking at it and going, those guys that were big for us and we used in the mid-2000s and later on, they still have a lot to offer. Maybe they're not going to be as good in the ring as they once were, but they can still talk, they can still do things on the mic, and I think Melina fits into that category too. Support for Wrestle News 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Now, there have been so many times, right? I'm a guy. You gotta groom down there, fellas, right? That's the most important thing. You gotta keep yourself trimmed, you gotta keep yourself proper, and a lot of the time I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot, and I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favourite features about the lawnmower, is the LED light which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more did I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testies their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code 365wrestle. Your balls will thank you. Who's to say that she would be working? Melina, she did a lot with managing superstars and tag teams in WWE, so who's to say she wouldn't do that? So personally, I still think she will return. I think she has a lot to offer, maybe not in the ring, but certainly on the microphone. If you saw her work in the NWA on NWA Power with the likes of Thunder Rosa, Allysin Kay, and the other females in that company, she can obviously still work, so she can do matches. I look at it as the same situation as MVP. I really do. That's the situation I look at it. I would think they would bring her in a similar role as that. She's not going to be working every week on TV if she comes in, but she'll be a presence on the show, and she'll be cutting promos on the show. Because who knows if she even would be working. Like she said, would she even be physically capable? She doesn't know. She doesn't know. But she could easily come in and be a manager. At the start of her career, she was the manager of Eminem, Mercury, Nitro, and Melina, right? Great tag team on SmackDown back in the mid-2000s. And then once they broke up, she was the manager of Johnny Nitro for a while during his singles career, the start of his singles career. So who's to say that she wouldn't come in and do that role? She doesn't have to just come in and be a wrestler. So she's denied that she is returning, but she hasn't denied that it's a possibility. So we'll have to wait and see on that. The problem is with professional wrestling, and it's almost like no other sport, and maybe it's got a slight parallel to films and movies, right? When something, they're trying to keep a big surprise under wraps for a certain film or a certain TV show. Is this character going to be returning? Sometimes they'll just openly come out and deny it. Oh no, I'm not going to be in that series, right? Remember Steve Carell in the Office finale? Yeah, I'm not coming back, and then he shows up. Wrestling, professional wrestling is the ultimate work, isn't it, right? Because going back in history, you're working the fans that it was legitimate, and everyone is always trying to work everyone. So as a fan and as a person in the business and as fans watching at home and whatever, it makes you weary, and eventually you just don't believe anything. The problem is with news from professional wrestling is at this point, if you've watched it for a certain period of time, you're conditioned not to believe what people say. Which is an issue when people come out and say these things that I'm not signed to this company or I'm this, I'm that. It makes you you always have the reaction of, oh, okay, that's a work, right? You always have that thing of, am I being worked? Are they trying to cover it up? Are they trying to, reduce the spoiler aspect here? Are they trying to place the element of doubt in my mind? All of that sort of stuff. That's just professional wrestling. That's the problem with professional wrestling, or the good thing with professional wrestling, depending on how you want to look at it. So you have to look at the possibility that the upcoming return, they might not have wanted it to be spoiled. They might have wanted to keep Melina's return to WWE a surprise. Mike Johnson and his sources get a wind of it and they post it. It was meant to be a surprise, and now they're trying to cover it up. That's absolutely a possibility here. There's lots of different ways to look at it. And I think while you should take Melina at her word because she deserves that, you've got to consider the other options of what this means and what's actually going on right now. Or like I said, and like Melina said, she's not signed to the WWE right now. Maybe she will be one day, but as of right now, maybe there are no plans. Maybe this was completely wrong. But there are so many factors and variables here. Usually, if this was most other businesses and this was most other industries, if someone came out and said categorically this isn't true, I'm not signed to this, I'm not doing this, you would go, okay, fine. But it's pro wrestling. You never know what to believe. Maybe, like I said, there's so many variables. Maybe she hasn't signed with the WWE right now, but she's talking. Maybe she has signed, but they want to keep it a surprise. Maybe it's all BS and she hasn't even spoken to anyone at all and she don't know where this has come from. Maybe Mike Johnson of PW Insider got some bad info. That does happen. Sources are wrong. Sources aren't 100% accurate. Sometimes WWE has been known to do this in the past. They leak out fake information to basically find out who these sources are. Because WWE doesn't want leaks, WWE doesn't want things to be spoiled, and some fans don't either. And I do say that, if you're looking for it, you will find it a lot of the time. So that's my opinion on those things. But like I said, some WWE, and more so in the last recent years, they try and crack down so often on leaks and spoilers for shows. A lot of the time for big matches, on the script and the run sheet of the show, they won't write down the finish. Sometimes they'll give out false scripts with false finishes on there and say this person will win when it's actually in reality the other way. Sometimes only 2-3 people know the outcomes of matches, or surprises, or returns, or angles. Or sometimes people in WWE's marketing departments there have to sign confidentiality clauses to not ruin surprises. It's that serious. So sometimes WWE will purposely give someone backstage that they suspect to be leaking information, bad information, and they give it only to them. And then once they find out that it's gone online, Melina is coming back to the WWE, they then know, that guy right there, he's the one we gave that information to, he leaked it out, you're out of the company. So sometimes that's what's going to happen as well. WWE is always looking for who is leaking the information. So there's lots of different things at play here. But the only thing that, again, that makes me consider about this whole situation is that for Mike Johnson and for PW Insider, it's a pretty big claim when you think about it. And it's a pretty big claim and it's a pretty big story for it to blow up in their face and be completely nonsense and completely not true. And when it comes to professional wrestling journalism, you're only reputable as the stories that you break in your track record. And as I mentioned, as someone that has and currently still does work with big journalists, there absolutely is a vetting process when it comes to sources and the sources you find inside different companies. There are multiple sources. And a lot of the time when they get this information, they don't just get it from one person and say, I'm going to go with that. They get it and then they go to several other sources and say, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? If they haven't, they won't go with the story. So there are multiple. I think it's really important to stress that it's not a case of Mike Johnson getting this and then just putting it out straight away. There's layers to it. There's absolutely layers to it. And to pull the curtain back completely, a lot of the time when you hear these news stories and sources say this, sources say that about a specific WWE superstar or specific wrestler of any kind, a lot of the time the news comes from the wrestler themselves or people very, very close to them. So if someone says so-and-so isn't happy in the WWE, a lot of the time it's come from the person that isn't happy. So that's just historically how that's always worked. So the original report said from Mike Johnson and PW Insider, the original report said that Melina would be returning in the next 7 days to WWE. So either way, I guess we won't have to wait long to find out the answer of whether this story does have some form of legitimacy or not. We'll have to wait and see. Melina did seem pretty sincere, I will say though, in her statement, and as I mentioned, she spoke about being upset that her fans could be let down, and as I mentioned, she spoke about losing her father to COVID-19, which is heavy and serious too, and commiserations for her loss. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, and that's just a horrible situation, and it's just, the world is crazy right now, isn't it? So for her to mention all of that, again, adds some legitimacy to what she is saying, that maybe she hasn't signed with WWE. As far as I believe, I do think she will return. I just don't think it'll be in the next 7 days. I think the reality of this story is a little bit in the middle. I don't think Melina has probably signed a contract with WWE, but I also think that she might have had some discussions with them and something's got lost in translation. That's my opinion. I don't have any information about that. I'm just trying to read the land as I see it. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Melina ruling out a return to WWE right now? Do you think she will eventually return, or do you think she's actually signed a WWE contract? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys on this channel. If you've enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really just helps out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. We're over 850 subscribers now, so 150 subscribers to go till that magic 1,000 number. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. We'll probably do something special once we get to 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you're part of the WrestleNews 365 crew. And if you have subscribed, just know that I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.